Thank you. My question was actually around the topic that Helmut just brought up, and I'd like to hear from more than just Helmut on this, and that is, as you drive performance by opening information and sharing and connecting networks and information, how do you all think about cybersecurity? Siemens was exposed to it through an incident that they experienced, and then think of it, put it in the context of Doug's comments about the unknown. The workshop that I attended yesterday, a lot of the questions from the audience were about the fact that there's no real history in cybersecurity, much like the fact that Doug faced the fact that he could not test in the real world because he was facing the unknown. So cybersecurity, unknown, how do you think about it?
Go ahead.
Sure. Well, I think the first is the lines of integration are really being drawn between reliability, safety, and security. So one doesn't exist in a pure vacuum from the other. But when we talk specifically about cybersecurity, it is a mix, as Helmut said, of both technology and human factors or cultural issues. Within Rockwell Automation, we're addressing it on a variety of fronts. It starts with the basic resilience of our products, but we recognize that all of our products ultimately go into a system that may include many other products besides our own manufacturer. It has to do with protecting our own information internally at our own facilities, but also customer information, because as our services grow, then many times we're entrusted with sensitive customer information, and we're providing many customers within a given industry. So it's across a rapidly expanding front, because many of us are just learning about all the new ways that we can be vulnerable in this space. But we're developing a systemic approach, and again, it's a variety of technology that can help us, as well as human factors, to give us that defense in depth throughout an entire system.
Kohori-san, could I ask you maybe how are you protecting your systems against cybersecurity and so forth? Go ahead.
As already mentioned, the industrial automation system had connected to the variety of the system. That makes manufacturer difficult to protect the customer from the security issues. Of course, Yokogawa has a cyber security lab in Tokyo, Singapore, India to protect the customers. So we try to test whole systems, not, of course, including Yokogawa product, other product. But still, that is not necessarily enough, because as already mentioned, there is a human-related factors. So the good security, the procedures, and the rules, and that should be updated, because control system or the manufacturing control system never stands still. It keep on growing, keep on changing. So that is a track, how to track the security procedures and activity is very important. So it's a kind of the joint work with customer to establish very solid culture for the security in the customers.
Okay. Excellent. Any other comments? Yeah, Patty? Yeah, go ahead.
I think just to add, from the operator perspective, we use equipment. Okay, I think the close collaboration with our equipment vendor manufacturers is really important, that we want to buy equipment, we want to buy software that's tight. Okay, and so that's step one, and working to understand that. And as many of you that attended the cybersecurity workshop yesterday, Johan Nye, a member of the industry committee, talked about vendors can, and we encourage to submit for certification to meet various cybersecurity standards. I think secondly, and we talked about this yesterday, there needs to be incredibly close collaboration inside the company between IT and control systems. Some corporations have them in one organization, others have them in two organizations, but either way they need to behave as one. And we talked about yesterday, the information side wants confidentiality side, the control side wants availability. It's not an either or, it's a both. And so you then weave them into risk management. Okay, it needs to be a balance. Having data available, right person, right time, in the right way, leads you to open up. Some of that data, when it's opened, is more risky, some of it's less risky. If you're controlling a system, you're running temperatures, pressures, okay, you really, really want to have a tight system. And the risk you're willing to take there will probably be significantly less than some of the other data. So I think it's a combination of good collaboration with vendors, meeting consistent standards, integration of information and control system technology within the company, and then the last one, the employee, the person. I think each of us has various training programs, each of us has various scenarios where we play out what could happen, how does that, I know in our company we've moved the decimal point in the probability by training, by mitigating and controlling some of the practices. And I think there's opportunities for all of us to share and to learn as we go forward. But it's not a question of when we are breached, it's a question of will we catch it in time to contain it, control it, and to not lead to a serious incident.
If we could move on, so we can get through more questions here. Tim, please identify yourself.
Tim Feldman, I'm on ISA,
Yeah.
and my question was going to be on control system cyber threats, but since that question has just been addressed, I just thought I'd make a point of information for the group. Yesterday, the Automation Federation and ISA were invited to send 4 leaders to a briefing tomorrow at the White House on the executive order. A couple of folks left this meeting early to be at that meeting, and as I think you all know, if you don't know, the Automation Federation, outside of its top priority of workforce development, has been in the cybersecurity area going back to the Bush administration. So this is happening, and as Helmuth said, it will be this week.
Andy, sorry, I have to add one more topic there quickly. I think it's absolutely critical. This very close cooperation between customers, providers, Homeland Security, CERT, and the standardization organizations. That's the only way that we stay ahead of the curve. And I think the collaboration is going really incredibly well, and it's going with the adequate sensitivity to it.
Right. Agree. If we could move on a little bit to bring a technology side, how technology can help us. I have a question. Technology is moving so fast these days. How are you trying to keep up? How are you trying to help your customers, stay on top? It's a challenge for us, and maybe you could comment on. Could I start with you, Jody?
Sure. So I'll use a manufacturing example. So when the original controls probably put into your plant were put in, you expected them to last 20 to 30 years. And I think if we look at today, the chips that are in those control systems are 20 to 30 years old. And therefore, when you think about the future, how do you harness the value of that chip in terms of what you want to do in that manufacturing setting? Achieving that next level of breakthrough performance in that setting for the people that operate that equipment, for those end customers that you want to sell that product to, you have lots of capability to unlock with that next evolution of technology. It sounds scary, right? It sounds scary. This process has operated this way for the last 20 years. I know how it operates. I know my risks. I know what to do, how to respond when X happens or Y happens. How do you do that in a thoughtful way? How do you do that in a thoughtful way to use that next generation of technology and what it has to bear? Those intelligent devices. The control system being able to analyze information, to automate a decision, to put the power back in the operator, to go and touch the machine in a line that needs that attention to make a change. So technology, and because of really the internet revolution, has provided a brand new world of technology that can be brought to the control platform for the operator in a manufacturing setting, in a rig, in a floating platform, in all sorts of applications. And how do you make that step? That next evolution can be scary, but the technology today can really unleash a boatload of productivity for you as an end user.
Go ahead, Blake.
You just mentioned 3 things that I think help us keep pace with technology. One is to not buck larger trends in industry and in the commercial world. So choosing a vision of converged plant-wide Ethernet rather than proliferating proprietary networks is a good way to harness a trend that's going to be bigger than us. Second is to align ourselves with strong, thriving friends and to work with partners who can help provide technology that we would be slower to market with, quite frankly, if we weren't working with others. Cisco is an example of that in the Rockwell automation world. And then third is a consistent commitment to technical training for our workforce and being able to take the time to invest in the technical training, especially of our younger workers, through good times and bad. So to have programs that persist through economic up and down cycles, because we have to have a workforce that's capable of grasping those trends.
Good. Kohori-san, would you like to comment?
Possibly to try to catch up the new technologies and in the customers. There are two aspects. One is, of course, the manufacturer have to help to apply the new technology to the customer's business. Customers run the business for refineries or food industries. So we have to interpret how our new technology can help the customers. That is our role as manufacturers. Second thing is possibly to spread out these technology more globally or more standard way. Possibly the global standard is very important. So the Yokogawa is very actively to involve for the standardization of the new technology to apply to the industries. And especially we encourage to invite the users to participate in standardizations. That is a way to have a coherent, approach to the new technologies.
Would you like?
Yeah. What are our customers looking for? What many here in the room are looking for is what we call vision with substance. Now, what does that mean? When we, about 7-8 years ago, we described the picture of the future. We said, how does industrial design and manufacturing look in 10-15 years? And you might have known us at the time as a pure automation provider. And their productivity increased, their concept totally integrated automation, crossing discrete, hybrid, and batch and process industries. But then we said, out of this picture of the future, is there something else coming? And what's really coming and makes the change is the connection of the product design with the manufacturing. Now, at the time, we were not in the product design field. Today we are, and we have heard today pretty successfully, obviously, because that's exactly the tools that NASA used. Now, what does that mean now as a next step for many companies in the industrial field? It means if you're not only looking at the 10-15% productivity improvements that come, for example, by using a more intelligent engineering tool. We just brought a TI portal to market where some of our customers reached 30% improved engineering time. But if you really look at changes that are step changes, then it's about designing your product, designing the manufacturing side, and connecting this directly to the manufacturing execution. Like, for example, DuPont does today with their smart plant approach. And that's exactly what these kind of tools do and what technology, Andy, can do going forward.
Good. What I'd like to do is maybe ask Patty, when you are looking at new technologies, what process do you use to adopt these new technologies? How do you go about? Doug mentioned earlier that, obviously they do a lot of testing and so forth. Do you have a process that you use to bring in new technologies to plants?
What do you think the answer is, guys?
Yeah, yes.
Do we have a process?
Well,
No,
what process?
all sarcasm aside.
Yes.
Where was your money, right? Yeah. No. I think with a company of our size, we need to be thoughtful and selective in what technologies do we develop internally, where we feel there's proprietary advantage, what technologies do we want to co-develop with other partners, and then what technologies do we basically just want to plug and play. And so we have a technology acquisition strategy for the various technology areas, whether it's in our upstream area or chemicals area, refining area, to define those. Once you get into one of those categories. If you develop it inside, then yes, we have an R&D process that, in fact, I think Jody mentioned the verticals. In ExxonMobil, most of the research and development that we do is going to be multidiscipline. And so we actually manage the R&D, discovery, development, deployment in the matrix across the verticals, okay? We call them the functional areas. And so the R&D managers, the technology leaders partner with the business. The business defines the need, sometimes the opportunity. Our research and engineering folks then put together a thoughtful, risk-based testing development plan. And the business partners are part of it as we go along. We always go through what we call a technical readiness process. It's a step in the process. And depending on the risk, we'll determine how rigorous is this review, is this evaluation, is it just done by the project team? Is there a cold eyes review where people are brought in outside of the project but inside the company, or for the really big stuff, outside the company into? So it's a risk-based approach, bringing in ideas, where it's competitive advantage, is it's internal, where there's opportunities to partner with a vendor, then we would co-develop, and similar mindset, just working with a broader team.
Good. If I could ask the suppliers on the panel, do you have a process? If you could talk about how you help your customers, with new technologies, because obviously there are a lot of them. Would anybody like to share that? Maybe you obviously, internally, you have to do the same thing. Your process, what is your process to bring new technologies into your products, and then hopefully, take those technologies to the customers. You want to start, Blake?
Sure, just a couple of ways in which we do that. Again, I mentioned before the MG Bryan application with fracking trucks. That was done as a pilot program with the full participation of the customer who was looking for that breakthrough performance. And so we knew that there was going to need to be a higher level of collaboration to pull off a successful project, because you couldn't order a catalog number through your local distributor for what they wanted to do. And so having declared pilot programs and making sure that they're staffed so that we're correctly project managing those is one way in which we can help customers manage the introduction of new technologies. The other is an active advanced technology group, which is constantly performing proof of concept experiments for this technology, and very often we're bringing customers in who define their business problem with us, and then we work to be able to prove what can be done with current and emerging technology.
Good. Go ahead, Joe.
I'll add on. Similar to many of these large companies, we have corporate research, dedicated processes to developing new technologies. We call it NPI and whatnot. But I want to share a little bit of a unique perspective from my business. Being part of a very large company, I get to test and try a little bit inside of my own manufacturing facilities. And actually, one is going to speak tomorrow, Randy Roush from Energy Storage, about how we took our control platform, our software layers, and some of our analytics in our new mobile SCADA in that plant. It's fun when I get to walk out into my own factory floors where I make my own controls and see my software at work, to be able to play with it, if you will, to test that technology, thinking about it from those listening sessions with end customers, with how they might apply that technology in their setting. So similar to the deep entrenched processes and policies and chief engineers and the way that we protect that evolution of technology, thinking about it with the brightest minds, I also have a unique position that I get to take that software and try it out in my own facilities and kind of kick the tires, if you will, and learn before I take it to my end customers.
Good. Helmuth?
Jody, I think GE and Siemens have something similar there. When you look at our gas turbine manufacturing in Charlotte, where we doubled the capacity, you might have heard of this in the last State of the Union address, where one of our team members was shown there. Naturally, that they are they're the most productive gas turbine factory around the world, more than anywhere else, and we do have in China, we do have in Europe. The reason is that they use the most advanced tools. And most of these tools come from one company, and it's the same company that produce the gas turbines, from Siemens. But then I would like to add the aspect which came up in the State of the Union address. It's important to have the right tools. It's important to know to apply them, and it's absolutely critical to have the people there with the right level of knowledge. We train around the world on our PLM software 1.2 million students. 1.2 million students. Actually, educational institutions do this that partner with us. In Charlotte, we were training people to work with mechatronics to really make it happen that this becomes the most attractive and most productive manufacturing site for these kind of types in the Siemens world. And this only works, and there, Judy, I think it's just fascinating for the two of us that we can try our latest tools in our own companies.
Yeah.